Well, good day. Michael DDA here. We're doing Deuteronomy 25 today. Some interesting things to talk about. I got to say, I heard it again this week. Michael, you're a misogynist. You know what? Maybe Yehovah's a misogynist. The men. The very first verse we're going to talk about today. Look what it says. 25 verse 1. If there is a dispute between men. How many times have I said that to impact on you the fact that it says men, it doesn't say women. It uses the word enoshim. That is plural men. Here it is right here on the right-hand side. Men, plural, enoshim. It's the plural form of ish. There are no lady ish. Women do not go to the judge. They go to their husbands. And sometimes if it's between two husbands, it may be that the husbands have to work things out between the ladies. But they're not going to go to the judges. It doesn't happen. Ladies don't go to war. Ladies follow their men. Men take care of widows and orphans. What's an orphan? It's a fatherless child. That's an orphan. They may have a mother, but they're an orphan. We don't get it because we've been indoctrinated with feminism since World War II, when we put all our women into the factories. Oh my goodness, it's terrible. We've lost our way. That's part of the reason why I work so hard and emphasize so strongly where it says men, because we've got to understand that men are not the same as women. Last week, wasn't it last week? Yeah, 24. Look, Yehovah wants to make a difference. Where is it? I think it was verse 5. No, that must have been another week. Remember where we talked about a man shall not wear, no, they start by saying a woman shall not wear a man's clothing, nor shall a man wear a woman's attire. Yehovah makes a difference between the duties and responsibilities in his kingdom for men and the duties and responsibilities in his kingdom for women. The problem is we're in the kingdom of the Gentiles. We've lost our way. We don't see the high roads, the old ways. And we decide in our own hearts what is right. And what does Yehovah say? The heart is deceitful above all things, desperately wicked. Who can know it? He says, I, Yehovah, search the heart to give to every man, the fruits of his doings. Yes, it's to men. It's men who become Ezrach. The women become a son, a daughter of Yehovah through their man, bone of his bone, flesh of his flesh. Yehovah never gave instructions to women. He gave instructions to men to teach their women, but he didn't give any to the women, never talked to the women, never talked to Eve until she was in trouble. We've lost our way. Please, I'm imploring you. Listen to what I have to say. I can help you. I'm your friend. Calling me a misogynist, it's not going to help you. It doesn't change what Yehovah says is right and what's wrong, does it? No. Listen to what I say. Search out the scriptures. I show you in black and white. I highlight certain things just so you can see the truth. We're talking about dispute between men and Oshim. You know, I have to highlight this too. They use the word court. Court. They come to court. Is that where they're coming? Do we have courts in Israel? I don't think we do. Look what it says. Here's what it says. They come for judgment. Here it is. Mishpat. They come for a verdict by the judges. It says right here, they come to court. Here it is right here. They come to the court that the judges may judge them. It's the judges. They judge. They come to judgment and they judge them, is what it says. And they judge them. And they justify. It's more than one judge. They justify the righteous and condemn the wicked. Now, you know what? Because they use the word court, we think in our little minds that when we go to court, that's kind of comparable. Is it? Does the court judge according to Yehovah's statutes and judgments and ordinances? No, because it's not his court. It's not his men. There are no righteous judges in our system of government. Judicial, that's the word I'm looking for. In our judicial part of government. Doesn't exist. They're not righteous. If they were righteous, they probably wouldn't even be judges. We've learned lies. We have ideas in our minds that seem right, but they're not right. You can't judge righteousness if you're not righteous. So it talks about justifying the righteous. What is righteousness? Do you guys even know what righteousness is? Righteousness is living according to Yehovah's statutes and judgments and ordinances. Righteousness is what a man does when he goes through Passover, circumcises himself, and becomes an Ezrach man. But we don't get it. We don't know what righteousness is. We think we know what wicked is. But you know what? The majority of the world does things that would be considered wicked. How about eating pork? Taking a woman in her menses? Breaking the Sabbath? Eating all kinds of unclean things? Diverse weights and measures. I was just talking with a friend just recently about dating. These dating apps. It seems like all there is women. For me, I'm sure if you're a woman trying to find some man, you're going to get the same thing. They're just looking for money. They're cheaters and liars. They don't say where they live. That's how most of the world seems to be, at least on those platforms. Looking to take advantage of people. I guess that's why these two men are coming to the judges, coming to judgment to the judges, so the judges can judge them and justify the righteous and condemn the wicked. Well, it goes on. Here it is, the righteous, the Zadik is the word that they use there. The wicked is the Rasha. Rasha, the judgment. And this is they judge, and they judge is what it says. There's more than one judge. I think there's safety in a group of people that are judging like that. I think there is. Well, then 2, it says, then it shall be. If the wicked, it doesn't have the word man, it just says, if the wicked deserves to be beaten, that the judge will cause him to lie down and be beaten in his presence, according to his guilt, with a certain number of blows. So they're going to give the man blows, strikes. Seems like sometimes it says stripes, but the word has to do more with strikes, striking. In fact, did I have it on here? It seemed like I remember seeing it someplace where they were talking about strikes. Let's look down here. Not exceed. Yeah, we don't have prisons. Yehovah doesn't have prisons. He has some other ways of doing judgment. Eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. They set an example to other men who are going to be getting in a fight. Here on the right, I put a couple things. Oh, here's where I had strike for strike. Strike for strike is what it says. If men fight and hurt a woman with child so that she gives birth prematurely, yet no harm follows, he shall surely be punished according to the woman's husband imposes upon him, and he shall pay as the judges determine. But if harm follows, then you shall give life for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot, burn for burn, wound for wound, strike for strike. Here's another one. This is Leviticus 24. That was Exodus 21. Let me see if I can get my cursor there. There we are. If a man causes disfigurement of his neighbor, as he has done, so it shall be done to him, fracture for fracture, eye for eye, tooth for tooth. As he has caused disfigurement of a man, so shall it be done to him. Here's another one. This is Deuteronomy. This is a couple weeks ago. It says, as judgment and the judges, so there's judges, more than one, and the judges shall make careful inquiry. And indeed, if the witness is a false witness, who has testified falsely against his brother, then you shall do to him as he thought to have done to his brother. So you shall put away the evil from among you, and those who remain shall hear and fear. And hereafter they shall not again commit such evil among you. Eye for eye. No, I'm sorry. Your eye shall not pity, your eye shall not pity. Life shall be for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot. Somebody's missing a foot. There's a constant reminder that what was said is happening. We're going to talk about another judgment today, just a few more verses. But it's going to be a visual that what was done shouldn't be done. So he goes, he says, 40 blows he may give him and no more, lest he should exceed this and beat him with many blows. That's what I say. I think it's kind of like a rod that the man is being beaten with. It's not a whip. I think it's more of a rod that's going to leave stripes. from the strikes. Beat him with many blows above these, and thy brother be humiliated in thy sight. So we want to punish him, but we don't want to humiliate him, apparently. Now he goes on, he changes the subject. He says, thou shalt not muzzle an ox. Well, he treads out the grain. That's pretty logical. When your ox is treading out the grain, he's going in a circle, probably has a millstone. He's grinding that millstone as he walks around the circle, and you've got a grain bag that's in front of the ox so that he can eat as he needs to eat to maintain his strength. But in other words, help the animal perform the work that only he can do. Yeah, he's the only one that can do it, that ox, to tread out the grain like that. Now, this is so interesting. This says, if brothers, now this is going to be fairly long, it goes from verse 5 through verse 10. If brothers dwell together, and one of them dies and has no son, the widow of the dead man shall not be married, they put, to a stranger outside the family. And again, family, they just went ahead and stuck that in there. Remember what I said, when you use or see words like foreigner and stranger, always look them up. Find out who they are. Are they talking about a ger? Usually when we're talking about a stranger, we're talking about a ger in the New King James Version. But we're not here. Isn't that interesting? Here's what we're talking about. I'll read it. In fact, let me read this whole thing, and then we'll talk about it. This is 5 and 6. It says, if brothers, this is ak. So akim is the word that we're talking about. More than one brother. Brothers dwell together. Now, are we talking about a family? I don't think we are necessarily. Even a multi-generational family, I guess you could argue we're talking about a multi-generational family, but not necessarily in the same household. I want a multi-generational family in the future. Yeah, I see what's coming with the medbeds. I think, I hope, I pray, I'm going to have another 30 to 60 years added to my life. I want women in my life who can give me sons. I want to teach them the ways of Yehovah. But we're talking about brothers. See, men, Ezrach men, sons of Yehovah, known as the children of Israel, are brothers. They're all men. They're not ladies. They're Ezrach men. Generations of spiritually born men. Now, when Israel dwells together, remember they are in Ephraim and Manasseh and Judah, all the different tribes. They're brothers. They're brothers together, but we don't we're going to take brothers from the same tribe, kind of like the daughters of Zelophehad. You remember the daughters of Zelophehad? They were going to get their land, but they only got their land if they married someone in the tribe. Family. This is what we're talking about, brothers. It's the same. So here we have brothers. Like, are they in the house? In the same land? They're related. Some really this and go through. Not talking about blood, although that is kind of a clue with my the I hope it's not affecting my recording. So, brothers, not necessarily blood. We're talking about men who are from the same, let's say, tribe. I think that's probably the best way to do it. Near of kin. But they're brethren in that they're all Ezra men. We're not going to give our woman who is married to an Ezra man to they put a Zor. Now, a Zor, normally, that's the word they use here, this is Zor right here, is normally somebody who's not part of Israel. But there are times when even Israel is called a Zor. When we had a boundary around our camp, the Levites were all around the tabernacle to protect Israel in general, of all the tribes, from coming to the tabernacle when they weren't supposed to. They were considered Zor to them. So it depends on the circumstances. But right now, when we're talking about to a man outside, to a Zor man, it says, that's what it says, a Zor man, to a Zor man. We're not going to give our woman to somebody who is outside the family. Now, they put family. That's what they put, family. And I think that's good. But let's broaden our ideas of what the family is to include the whole tribe, all the men who are related together. Family would be father's brothers, your husband's brothers. It could be uncles, near of kin. Who's the nearest of kin? That's the man that we're talking about in this case. And we're going to see how that works out, I think, when we talk about Ruth. It's very interesting. You'll see. So he says, the widow of the dead man, so we're talking about widows. Remember, we take care of our widows and orphans. If she's got children, we're going to take care of the children that way. Widows and orphans. Israel takes care of their widows and orphans. We don't take care of the widows and orphans in Babylon or even in the town next door to us. We take care of our widows and orphans from our family. So now it says, her husband's brother, Yavam is the word that they use. Her Yavam shall go to her and take her, lakak, her, to himself for a woman. This is a marriage. The woman is not just there for sex so that she can get a baby, a boy. She's there for the long term. The first son that comes from her is going to be the heir to the land that his father would have had. Same situation that we saw with the daughters of Zelophehad. They were single. Now, they were daughters, but it doesn't make any difference. They lost their father. They lost their covering. Every woman is supposed to have a covering. So it says he takes her to himself for a woman. You can read it on the right-hand side, and you can see where I'm making the changes to what it actually says. It doesn't say wife. It says for wife there. No, it says for a woman. And Yavam, her, and it shall be that the firstborn son, the Bekor is the word they're using there. Bekor, firstborn son. Bekor is always a boy. which she bears shall succeed to the name of his dead brother. He's talking about the woman's man who died. The son that was born by another man for her to inherit his father's property is what keeps it in the family, which she bears will succeed to the name of his father's brother, that his name may not be blotted out from Israel. We're trying to keep the father's name alive. Why? Because the father has property, and we're trying to keep the property in the family so it doesn't go to another man. This is why the daughters of Zelophehad had to marry somebody within their family. As I recall, they married their brother's sons. Their cousins is who they married. Their father's brother's sons. Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah, they're cousins. No. There are times. What if a man already has a woman? Here, I put it. I put it there. What if the brother already has a woman? Now, I say brother. Get out of your mind siblings. We're not talking about siblings. We're talking about close relations, close relatives. But they're brothers, they're Ezra men, and they are still Aki, brothers. So think beyond blood. Think spiritual. But this is what happened to Tamar. Now look at what happened to Tamar. Now I wrote this article. Let me just show it to you real quick. I was really impressed with this the very first time I saw it, this movie. It's called Loving Leah. I saw it, actually bought it just so I could review it before I taught this lesson this week. And you know what? I was really disappointed by what they did and how they treated the movie. I certainly wouldn't recommend this movie any longer, but I was impressed with it, with the little that I knew 10 years ago, but not at this point. At any rate, let's close that. Here's Tamar. Then Judah took a woman for his firstborn. Remember, he gets the double blessing. The firstborn gets the double blessing, and her name was Tamar. But Judah's firstborn, was wicked in the sight of Yehovah, and Yehovah killed him. And Judah said to Onan, his secondborn, go to thy brother's woman and Yavam her. Look at that. Same word, Yavam. This is what we're talking about, the Levirate marriage. And raise up an heir to thy brother. But Onan knew that the heir would not be his. And it came to pass when he went to his brother's woman that he emitted on the ground, lest he should give an heir to his brother. Well, as you know, Onan got killed by Yehovah because of his wickedness and not doing what he was supposed to do. He had a new wife, but he didn't want to give her a son that would take away his heritage. He was now the heir until she had a son. Well, you remember how the story went. There was a third son that didn't get to go. He wouldn't give her to Tamar, or give Tamar to his third son. And as a result, she ended up playing the harlot so that she could get Judah's seed, which was owed her. He would have been the next of kin, the closest relative after the next son. So I don't think what she did was wicked. What he did was wicked. Judah did. Anyway, let's move on. We're still got some other things to talk about here. It says, what if the man's brother is already married? That could be a reason why he doesn't want to perform Yavam. He doesn't want to take this woman to himself. And, I think it's really interesting. I mean, you have to look at the woman's point of view, don't you? Because for her, she's being taken by a new man. She doesn't have any real decision in it. But this is probably a man that she already knows. He's part of the family. She's not being taken by a stranger, which is probably why they use the word stranger here. She's being taken by a near of kin. Could be an older man. It could be an uncle. Could be a son of an uncle. Could be an actual brother, which is what most people think about when they do this. But I think we got to think deeper than that. I put the firstborn son from the woman gets the inheritance that his dead brother would have received from his father. So if we're talking about the land, he would have got the land. That land would have been his. And now it's going to be another man's son. Probably if it was two brothers, the second-born son. I mean, why does it have to be the firstborn son who dies? It could be the second-born son who dies, and the man who's already got property that doesn't need it. I mean, we got to think beyond the boundaries that are in our minds. Yeah, what if it's a second or a third-born son, and there's still other brothers, or there's still other relatives? This could be if he's got land coming to him, because see, this is more than just a woman. This is more than just getting a woman. This is about dealing with redeeming property as well as redeeming the woman, which, sad to say, for those of you who are such feminists, she's property. She's his woman. And he's got property that has to be dealt with. That's why we're taking the woman, so that the property comes with the woman. You're going to see that with Ruth. We'll talk about that in just a moment. So, would the next son that comes from the woman would be considered be considered the dead man's brother's firstborn son? I think he is. So he comes to the woman. He gives her a son. The son is going to be the heir to the dead man. And the next son is going to be his firstborn son. That's how I read it. In verse 5, it says, if brothers dwell together, must these be related? See, this is where we're talking about. I think they are related, but they're also Ezra men as well. And those, like I said, those Ezra men, they're called brothers. Talk about love your brother as yourself, love your neighbor as yourself. This is who we're talking about. Gera and Ezra, but I think Ezra is who we're actually talking about. People who are related, near of kin. That's how I have to call them. I think near of kin, nearest relation. We'll see that in Ruth. Let's go there. I think it's in this next portion here. So we did 5 and 6. This is 7. Read it on the right. I'll read it on the left. I'll read it on the right. But if the man does not want to take his sister-in-law, and that's what it kind of looks like. Yevemet, sister-in-law. Then let his sister-in-law go to the gate of the elders and say, my husband's brother, call him the Yamvam. See, is this the act? Is this a person? I think it's a person. It almost makes it sound like the act, though, the coitus, refuses to raise up a name for his brother in Israel. My Yavam will not consent. That's what she says. My Yavam will not consent. So I put, why would a man not do it? Again, we're going to see some evidence of why this would not happen in the story of Ruth. But let me just go through my notes here. Perhaps because his current woman is defiling him from doing what is right. In other words, his wife, his woman, doesn't want another woman in the house. We are so programmed, one man, one woman, that we can't even see the possibility of a man having more than one woman in his life, a polygynist. That's not a polygamist. That's a polygynist. Polygamy is illegal according to the doctrines and traditions of men and the statutes and judgments and ordinances of the United States, not Yehovah's kingdom. The cabal wants small nuclear families that they can control and possibly even remove the man from, which happened in my life and with my children. Perhaps the brother was the head Ezrach of the gates, and he is the successor. I'm not sure what I was trying to say there. How did he get to be the new head? That's my question. By refusing to provide an heir? Oh, I see. Perhaps the brother was the head Ezrach. He's now the head of the gates. And how did he get to be the head of the gates? By refusing to provide an heir and leader of the gates. So his father was the head of the gates. He's going to be the new head of the gates, but he doesn't want to provide a new heir who will take his spot. Now it says, and this is verse 25:10, it says, now his gates is the house of him who had his sandal removed. And we're going to see how that works out here in just a second. In other words, he's the head of the house, but the head should have been someone else. He's the house of him who had his sandal removed. That's not a good thing. That's a bad thing. So let's move on to verse 8. Then the elders of the city shall call him and speak to him. And if he stands firm and says, I do not want to take her, then his brother's woman, again, it says woman, it does not say brother's wife, his brother's woman, that's the dead brother, shall come to him in the presence of the elders, remove his sandal from his foot, and spit in his face, and answer and say, so shall it be done to the man who will not build up his brother's house. And his name shall be called in Israel the house of him who had his sandal removed. Here's Ruth. Let's talk about Ruth for a second. We've only got 19 verses today. We've already gone through 10. We don't have that much left. But I really think it's important that we take a look at what Ruth had to say. I put his sister-in-law, his sister-in-law, what happens to the woman? Is the woman who would not want to be taken by her, what happens to the woman who would not want to be taken by her near of kin. Where would she go? I put, does she have a choice in the matter? I don't think that they do. We're going to see Ruth. Ruth was in Moab. Now, if she would have remained in Moab, she wouldn't have been forced to take anybody. But we're going to see there's deeper understandings that we have to get from the story of Ruth. This may be part of what was going on with Ruth and Naomi. Let me go to this. This whole chapter is really interesting. Boaz. It says, now Boaz went up to the gate and sat down there. He wants Ruth in his life. He knows that Naomi has property that her husband, what was her husband's name? Let me go to verse 1 here, or chapter 1. There it is. Elimelech. Let me read a couple verses. The name of the man was Elimelech. The name of his wife was Naomi. And the names of their two sons were Mahlon and Chilion, Ephrathites of Babylon. Ephrath and Babylon are Ephrath and Bethlehem are the same city. It was an older name for the same city. And they're both in Judah. They went to the country of Moab and remained there. And Elimelech's, Naomi's husband, died. So that's kind of where we're at in here. I think I put even on here. It was a relative of Naomi's husband, a man of great wealth, a relative of Naomi's husband, a man of great wealth of the family of Elimelech. He is of the family of Elimelech, his Naomi's father's. We don't know if he's a brother or who he is. His name was Boaz. He was quite wealthy. All right, let's go back to 4. Now, Boaz, of the family of Elimelech, quite wealthy, went up to the gate and sat down there. And behold, a close relative of Boaz, whom Boaz had spoken, came by. And Boaz said, come aside, friend, sit down here. So he came aside and sat down. And he took 10 men of the elders of the city and said, sit down here. So they sat. These are going to be the judges, the elders of the city, who are going to witness what's going on. Then he said to the close relative, Naomi, who has come back from the country of Moab, sold the piece of land which belonged to our brother Elimelech. See, this is about land. He's going to get that land back by redeeming the land. But not just anybody can redeem the land. He's got no relationship because, in a sense, what happens at the Jubilee? What's going to happen to the land? There's no successor. Can't go to Naomi. So this is what we're dealing with. We're dealing with land and we're dealing with people. Then he said to the close relative, I forget what his name is. I think they're going to tell us it, or they did already. Naomi, who has come back from the country of Moab, sold a piece of land which belonged to our brother Elimelech. And I thought to inform thee, saying, buy it back in the presence of the inhabitants of the elders of my people. See, this is what he's talking about. Buy it back, the land. This is about the land, redeeming the land. But redeeming the people as well, the property that belonged to Elimelech. If thou wilt redeem it, redeem it. But if thou wilt not redeem it, then tell me that I may know that there is no one but thee to redeem it. And I am next after thee. He's the nearest of kin, the near of kin. And he said, I will redeem it. And Boaz said, on the day thou buys the field from the hand of Naomi, really for the hand of Naomi, he's buying it from another man. The other man doesn't have any choice. He's got to sell it because she's the heir, or he's be the heir. You must also buy it from Ruth, the Moabitess, the woman of the dead, not the wife of the dead, the woman of the dead, to perpetuate the name of the dead through his inheritance. See what's going on here? Elimelech's inheritance, who seems to have been a brother, perhaps, to Naomi, is not going to marry her and get the inheritance. He says, and the close relative said, I cannot redeem it for myself lest I ruin my inheritance. Now, how is he going to ruin his inheritance? Is he already perhaps the first heir of another property, and he doesn't want to give up that property? Can they not add property to property? Perhaps not. But Boaz certainly has property. He's a wealthy man. So I guess that doesn't hold up. Why can't he do it? What did it just say? Israel, I cannot redeem it to myself, lest I ruin my inheritance. I ruin his inheritance. I want to ruin my inheritance. You redeem my right of redemption for thyself, for I cannot redeem it. So now that he knows he has to take Ruth as his, and Naomi's going to be part of the package because we take care of our widows and our orphans, he doesn't want it. Now they say, now this is the custom in former times in Israel concerning redeeming and exchanging. To confirm anything, one man took off his sandal and gave it to the other, and this was a confirmation in Israel. This is happening in front of everybody else. Therefore, the close relatives said to Boaz, buy it for thyself. So he took off his sandal. By taking off his sandal, he's saying, I'm going to give up my rights for the redemption of this land. And Boaz said to the elders of all the people, y'all are witnesses this day that I have bought all that was Elimelech's and all that was Chilion's and Mahlon's from the hand, it says for the hand of Naomi. I don't think it's from the hand of Naomi. She already sold it. Moreover, Ruth the Moabitess, the widow of Mahlon, I have acquired as my woman to perpetuate the name of the dead through his inheritance. His son, I forget what his name is. I guess we'll find it here in just a second. That the name of the dead, to perpetuate the name of the dead through his inheritance, that the name of the dead may not be cut off from among his brethren and from his position at the gate. You are witnesses this day. So he's not only going to get the land, the son's going to inherit his father's land, even though the man was not his father who bore him. He was the Yavam, which is what Boaz was to Ruth. The son that he's going to bear is going to inherit Elimelech's land. Well, Mahlon's land, Elimelech's, probably all of the land. And all the people were at the gate. And the elders said, we are witnesses. And Yehovah make the woman who is coming to thy house like Rachel and Leah, and the two who built the house of Israel. And may thou prosper in Ephrath, and be famous in Bethlehem. Remember, they're the same city, Ephrath and Bethlehem. May your house be like the house of Perez, whom Tamar bore to Judah. Look at that. They're even using the same woman who used the Yavam, whom Tamar bore to Judah, because of the offspring which Yehovah will give you from this young woman. So Boaz took Ruth, and she became his woman. And when he went to her, Yehovah gave her conception, and she bore a son. Then the women said to Naomi, look at this. This is Ruth. Remember, this is Naomi. Ruth was the daughter-in-law of Naomi. When he took her, the women said to Naomi, blessed be Yehovah, who has not left thee this day without a close relative, a near relative, and may his name be famous in Israel. And may he be to thee a restorer of life and a nourisher of thy old age. See, this is part of why we take care of widows and orphans, because our children take care of the elders. This is why we have multi-generational families. For thy daughter-in-law, who loves thee, who is better to thee than 7 sons, has borne him. They're telling her that Ruth is better than 7 sons. Everybody wants sons, but she's saying she's better because she's such a good woman. I want to say righteous woman, but there are no righteous women. There are no such thing as a righteous woman. She is a woman of worth, a good woman, a woman who has high value, who understands the role of a woman in Yehovah's kingdom, who is better to you than 7 sons, has borne him. Then Naomi took the child and laid him on her bosom and became a nurse to him. Look at that. Naomi's going to be nursing Obed. That's his name, Obed. Also, the neighbor women gave him a name. The neighbor women gave him a name, saying, there is a son born to Naomi. And they called his name Obed. Isn't that interesting? The neighbors gave him the name. He's the father of Jesse, the father of David. So interesting. Let's go back to our story here. That was Deuteronomy 25:9. Here we are. So that was the story of Ruth. I think it's really interesting to see how the redemption of property and why the need for this. That one, it keeps the property in the family, but 2, it provides for the needs of the women in the family, in their old age even. No, this is a really quite an interesting. This is the Levirate law. Okay, so we covered this. The name shall be called in Israel the house of him who had his sandal removed. Not a compliment. Not a compliment. He wouldn't take his near of kin when his brother died. If 2 men, this is a new thought now. If two men, again, two men, we're not talking about ladies, we're talking about men. If two men fight together and a woman, doesn't say the wife of one, it says, and a woman of one draws near to rescue her man. That's what it says, her man. Here, I've got it right here. Woman, a woman, her man, his genitals, from the hand of the one attacking him, and puts out her hand and seizes him by the genitals. Here's the word for genitals, masculine plural noun, indicating private parts, male genitals. It refers to the external male productive organs, especially the scrotum and the testicles. That's what we're talking about. So what does it do? What does it say? It says, then you shall cut off her hand, your eye shall not pity her. Inappropriate thing for her to do, stepping in and taking him like that, trying to incapacitate him so your husband can win the fight. New thought. You shall not, isn't this funny? After we're just talking about taking it by the genitals, it says, thou shalt not have in thy bag differing weights, heavy and light. I think, oh my goodness, why did they put that a couple verses away? We're talking about weights. We have a scale. And in your bag, we have a 1 ounce scale and a 2 ounce scale and a 3 ounce scale of so many grams. Those are weights that we're going to use to give correct measures for whatever it might be, silver, gold, grain, who knows? Things that are measured by weight. Can't have differing weights so that one man's going to get more than he deserves, or less than he deserves, depending on who's doing it. Then it says, thou shalt not have in your house differing measures, a large and a small. So measures would be for dry goods and for liquid goods. Wine would be a liquid good. Grain and flour might be the dry goods that we're going to measure. But we're not going to have differing weights. They're all going to be the same for everybody. Yehovah, he says, you shall have perfect and just weight. You shall have a perfect and just weight, a perfect and just measure, that your days may be lengthened in the land which Yehovah, thy Elohim, is giving thee. So by having correct weights and measures, it's actually going to increase our life. Now, we're almost done. For all who do such things, all who behave unrighteously, see, this is what we're talking about. This is what righteousness is, doing things according to Yehovah's statutes and judgments and ordinances. He says, all who behave unrighteously are to Ava, an abomination. Here's the word, to Ava, an abomination, disgusting, abhorrent to Yehovah, thy Elohim. Now, the last thing he says in this chapter, this is Moses talking, supposedly. I sometimes wonder. It says, remember what Amalek. Who was Amalek? He was the youngest son of, who was he? Youngest son. It's in Genesis 36. Here it is. There's Amalek. Now, Timnah was a companion to Eliphaz. That's not the first time Amalek comes in, I don't think. Yeah, it is. It says the sons of Eliphaz were Timnah, Omar, Zepho, Gatan, and Kenaz. And Timnah was the concubine of Eliphaz, Esau's son, and she bore Amalek to Eliphaz. So he was the son of Eliphaz, who was the son of Esau. Yeah, Esau bore Eliphaz. Amalek. What do we have to say about Amalek? Let's find out. Verse 16. Not quite 17. Remember what Amalek did to thee on the way as y'all were coming out of Egypt. How he met thee on the way and attacked thy rear ranks. All the stragglers at thy rear when thou wert tired and weary, and he did not fear Elohim. Therefore, it shall be when Yehovah thy Elohim has given thee rest from thy enemies all around, in the land which Yehovah thy Elohim is giving thee to possess as an inheritance, that you will blot out the remembrance of Amalek from under heaven. Thou shalt not forget. Well, we did forget. And here's what happened. I said, well, we did forget. And not until Saul was king that Samuel reminded him to do it. So it was actually Samuel who told the first king of Israel, remember he anointed Saul, to wipe out Amalek. And 15 just talks about this. Read just what the first verse says. Then we have Saul disobeys Yehovah. Saul fails to kill everything. Samuel hears bleeding. Obedience over sacrifice. It's what he says. Yehovah wants obedience over sacrifice. And Saul fears the people. So here's how it started. Samuel said to Shaul, Yehovah sent me to anoint you king over his people, over Israel. Now therefore heed the voice of the words of Yehovah. Thus says Yehovah of hosts, I will punish Amalek for what he did to Israel, how he ambushed him on the way when he came up from Egypt. Now go and attack Amalek. Look what he says. Utterly destroy all that they have, and do not spare them, but kill both man and woman, infant, nursing child, ox, sheep, camel, and donkey. Well, he did it, which is why when he got back, Saul says, why do I hear the bleating of sheep? Yeah, he didn't do it. I think that's the key when he lost his kingdom, because he just didn't obey Yehovah the way he's supposed to. All right. Well, we're going to stop here, you guys. Thank you for joining me. Please remember, like this, share this if you will. I would greatly appreciate it. And we'll talk to you again next time. Thank you so much for joining me. Why does this say start recording? Didn't I start this recording? This is not a good thing. Oh
no.
Yeah. It doesn't look like it started. No, it says stop sharing. It's to start recording. I heard a ding. I know I heard a ding when I started this. I always hear that ding. Well, what's that?
I said, I don't remember. I don't know. I think I was.
I heard a ding. I know I did. But I remember it was doing something with, remember I said there was something going on with my
sound. And I thought it was me because I was back outside.
No, it was doing it before you even came on. I was hearing every now and then.
It was just staticky for me when you were talking about that. I thought you were talking about the connection.
Oh. Well, I don't know that I got it.
Oh. I hate that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, I'll try and do it sometime during the week. That really sucks.
It does. That's a bummer.
Exhausting. It's really exhausting too.
Yeah. I mean, you
to
do all
prepare
that.
and build up my inertia. I mean, I was falling asleep today before class. I fell asleep a couple times. I was like, oh, come on, you got to stay awake. But yeah, when I went to turn it off, it was already there. Oh, shoot. Let's see what it says. Yeah.
It's not showing up.
Yeah. I don't have a message saying that it was saved.
Mm.
All right. Well, shoot.
Well, you could, when you do it again, get on YouTube and do it. Just kind of randomly. You might have some people stop in. You could mute everybody, I think, just so there's no interruptions, but just to test it out.
Yeah, I have no idea what's involved in doing it, but maybe I'll check it out. Well, shoot.
No, I hate that. I'm sorry.
I just updated my application. Maybe the update was bad. I know I did it because we were doing number 200.
Yeah, and you always do it. Like, that's just a habit.
Yeah, no, and I listened to the game. That's always my confirmation that it's working. Oh well.
Unless it stopped. It seems like it would have recorded something though.
Yeah, no.
Even if it did cut.
Didn't get a thing.
Okay.
Well, shucks.
Well, I enjoyed it, even if I was
Good.
the only person that heard it.
What did you think about that story about Ruth? Wasn't that interesting?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, because you really see how the land that she had is incorporated into why you need a firstborn son to carry on the name, because the name is carried on by the land.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's the first time I've had it explained or just realized that it's not like siblings when you say brother. Like, oh, that makes a lot of sense.
Yes. Yeah, that came to me when I saw Ruth.
Yeah.
Because they weren't brothers, they weren't in the same house.
Mm-hmm.
And that story, the guy was a Gentile. He was Israel. They were brothers. They were blood brothers. See, it's just leaves so many
siblings. We should just say siblings.
Yeah, totally left a bad taste in my mouth because I realized this guy's not Israel, and you're going to give this woman to a Gentile?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I thought I heard you call it something law with a L. It didn't sound like Levitical law. It was something else.
Oh, Levirate.
What is that?
That's what here. Let me go back to where I was, and I'll show you. It was up here. I think it was verse 9. No, that wasn't it. Must have been earlier. It was the one that had my link in it. There it is right there. Levirate.
Okay. So it is like Levi. It just sounded different.
Yeah, well, it's not Levi, it's Levirate. It's not related to Levi at all.
Oh, okay.
No, it isn't.
I don't think I've seen that article on there.
Yeah. But kind of talks. It's brief. It just talks about the Yampam. I really didn't say a whole lot about it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, here it says on there's much talking about loving Leah. There's much of it that I did not like, but I am always such a sucker for a chick flick. I am. I'm such a sucker for a chick flick.
But that movie wasn't what you thought it was going to be, I guess.
No, it was really a disappointment.
Mm.
Yeah, I wouldn't watch it again. I actually paid to watch it yesterday because I had to find it on YouTube.
Well, now you know.
$2.99. It wasn't too much of a shakeup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was interesting, too. They used the word court. I think that must be like just kind of condition us towards our court.
It's all about programming. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And the judge, and that's the judges.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's all, they change it, and they want you to believe certain things.
Yeah.
And especially Deuteronomy, I think, is more likely to do something like that.
Yeah, those little word changes a lot, and they have discretion when to use those words to, try to lead people away from.
That's right.
What's going on?
Yeah, look here. Can you still see my page?
Yeah. Oh, wait, no. I see the scripture, not your website.
Yeah, no, that's what I mean. The scriptures. The scripture. Yeah. So let me go where it says this about the court. Let me see if I can find that. Where was it? This court. If you look at this, they translated in the New King James as court, but here it says they come unto judgment and judge them. And then this one says restore judgment, and they judge them. No court on any of these. Now here is a English Standard Version. They come into court, and the judges decide between them. So it's partly right, partly wrong. Court to judge, come to judgment, and the judges judge them. That's better. King James says, come to judgment, and the judges may judge them. So then they don't all use the word court, but you got to be alert when you see these things. They do. They want us to think a certain way.
Oh, yeah.
And of course, most people who read this, they think, well, of course, the judge is righteous. No, the judge isn't righteous.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think the biggest thing they did was taking out the name, the Tetragrammaton, and putting in Lord, and everybody's got that all mixed up with.
Yes. Which is why whenever I go to the gym, I always wear my Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh shirts.
Mm-hmm.
I had so many people ask me, what is that? What is that on your chest? And it's such a great teaching tool, because then I can tell them, even in the New Testament, Jesus said, when you pray like this: Our Father which art in heaven, be thy name. What's his name? Nobody knows.
Right. Nobody knows, but everybody knows Jesus.
Yeah, that's right.
Everybody knows that one.
Everybody knows the golden calf.
Mm-hmm. Big time. But yeah, nobody knows the actual creator of the universe.
I think it's their biggest psyop.
Yeah.
Hiding God. Hiding Yehovah. That's their biggest psyop.
Mm-hmm. And flat earth is part of it.
They do it with NASA as well. NASA is a big part of it.
Yeah.
But it comes from the Catholic Church, both of them.
Mm-hmm. Everybody thinks we came from monkeys and pond stone.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So true.
I science. I know. I hate that.
Oh, gosh. Doesn't happen very often, thankfully, but
Yeah,
it did.
but still.
Yeah. Okay, well, shucks.
Shouldn't be more than an hour and a half, though, to do it again.
No, it only be an hour. I'm sure we didn't go hardly an hour. And maybe
Okay.
an hour.
Yeah, you're right. It was about an hour because we started about 15 or so minutes late.
Yeah. I did, I did a big chunk of almost a whole chapter of Ruth 4. But I like how verse 1 introduces who Boaz is and how chapter 2 talked about, I forget what it talked about. Both of them are kind of showed who, it helped us understand chapter 4.
Yeah. Context.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Well, shucks. I guess next time.
Yeah. Hit record next time. Double check.
Yeah.
And I'll start double checking. I was outside not looking at the screen the whole time.
Well, you wouldn't know if it's recording or not.
Okay. I thought there might be a red button or something. I don't know.
No, I don't think there is anything that you would see. No, I can only see it if I go to my display. And instead of saying stop recording, it said start recording. Nuts. Yeah. Oh, well.
Oh, well. It could be worse.
Yeah.
It could have been like a long one that you had to redo or something,
Right. Yeah, the 2-hour ones, that was really a bummer.
Yeah.
That happened twice, too. Okay, well, I know I'm going to have somebody call me. At least one person's going to call me and say, hey, you didn't get your class up this week. What happened?
Yeah.
He always calls.
Gina might notice, too. I wonder if she's still keeping up. Gina?
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah, she might notice. All right, dear. Well, have a great day.
Okay, you too. I'll keep you posted on my court stuff.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Catch you later.
You're welcome. Okay, bye.